Good morning, good evening, viewers from all around the world to Varun Kapur's channel. Welcome to the show. It is indeed my pleasure to host this show on behalf of Rotary Club of Addiction Prevention and Rotary Club of Mumbai Elite from Rotary District 3141, India. I'm very thankful to Varun Kapur for allowing us graciously the use of this channel for a noble cause to raise awareness about addiction and also to build resistance to addiction. Today's episode is the third in the series. We have with us the guest Vijay Rao Cavale. I'm very happy to introduce him to all of you. He comes with 25 years of work experience in branding, advertising, and marketing. Name the big ones, and he has been there. He is a postgraduate in advertising and marketing and communications and a certification course Re-Emerge Ready from Event Safety Alliance. He is the founder CEO of a private limited event management company. This is a Startup India accredited company and one of the 150 promising startups invited to present their story in the virtual exhibition and to interact with Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi ji, just in the recently concluded Startup India Innovation Week, wherein Honorable Narendra Modi ji declared January 16th as the Startup Day to be observed every year. So, thank you and welcome to this show. I commend you for coming up and, you know, daring to bear it all. So, why are you doing this show with me? What is your motivation?
Thank you, Girija ji, and warm welcome wherever you are to all the guests. And of course, post dinner, it is 9:33 on a slightly humid evening in Mumbai, and probably morning where Girija ji is, and all the other viewers wherever you are. Eloquent welcome, and thank you so much. And for the viewers, so she's introduced me as a startup maverick, a startup entrepreneur. So at 50 years old, I chose to become a startup, right? So that's just kind of, that at least tells me that a lot of things that sometimes we think are not possible are possible with the right levels of commitment, passion, and perseverance. I think hard work
Absolutely.
uh,
You said
and
it.
talent is required, right?
Yes. Everything is in the right attitude. You may have the, skill, but then if you do not use it, no use.
Yes,
Maximum
we
intelligence, but not put to use is of no use. So
so
commitment, like you said, is most important. Yes.
so so on this particular show, of course, I'm so proud, and I wear my Rotary badge, Rotary Club for Addiction Prevention. We are a cause based club, which is why I'm here as a recovered alcoholic. And so let me put it, so when I say that the word alcoholism, or if I were to say addict or drug addict, right? Let's
Yeah.
say drug addict, alcoholic, what's the first thought that comes to your mind, right? And I'm pretty sure that the mental picture that one, that a viewer would get, or society at large has, of the drug addict, the pill popper, the alcoholic, is really dark and very dreary and negative, uh, monster, evil, bad fellow, bad person,
Yeah.
all the bads and all the adjectives that one could get, right? So perhaps this show and my own story, in a way, is to humanize the word alcoholic,
Yes. Absolutely.
addict,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
and if you
Very
can
essential,
influence,
right? The
isn't
moment
it?
you put they versus us, then we are not with them. So the moment you isolate somebody as not good, or like you said, demonic, dark sphere, then you are isolating them from you.
And
So
there's no hope for that
no
person
more with
because
them.
society
There's no
has
hope.
given up on that person. So
Yes, yes.
the taboo, the stigma, at some levels, and slowly it is vastly, I wouldn't say slowly, it's rapidly improving as information spreads that alcoholism and other addictions are sicknesses, diseases. World Health Organization defines alcoholism. It doesn't call it a disease, but it's defined as alcohol use disorder. So just as you have any other sick person, a diabetic or somebody with a weak heart or with a knee problem, similarly the addict, the alcoholic, is also by definition a sick person in need of help. And the moment
But at the
society
same
moves.
time, like you said, it is help that is required, but at the same time, it is one of those avoidable disorders which, if a person does it at the right time, then probably he will not get into it. Lifestyle disorders, like you talk about, like you say that certain disorders, health problems occur because of your lifestyle. So this is very much one of them, right?
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
this outreach is also an attempt of one of many that we are engaged in to also look at the prevention aspect. So as you get
absolutely.
information, if there are youngsters today who might identify with what I'm going to say, maybe they will, you know, be able to recognize a lot of things. If there are families of the affected alcoholic, or if you think you're a heavy drinker and you want to find out more, then welcome to the journey.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very true. So, shall we start from your childhood? Because then people will understand. There are, people have different kinds of images. So some people think alcoholics are those who come out from the slums and then who get into those kind of things. Some people are like that. Some people are like the super rich, where they are, living in bungalows, and then, so just probably it can be from anyone amongst us can get into it. So that is the feel that I got when I had the conversation with you. So can we delve a little into your childhood, your parents, your schooling, so that people understand, yes, it is one among us, he's one among us, right?
Yeah, so there's this saying, that I've come across several times in my experience.
Yeah.
See, yeah, uh, alcoholism or the addiction doesn't differentiate between who you are, how educated you are, how old you are, how young you are, how wealthy you are, how poor you are, whether you live in a marble room or whether you live in a slum. Men and women drink because they like the effects of alcohol, and some of them drink heavy, and it sometimes, for reasons yet undefined by science, progresses into what could then be clinically called as alcohol use disorder or alcoholism. uh, so having said that, I'll also say that I mean, nobody really, I mean, when we were young and I took my first drink or my first pill or my first drug, I never thought I was going to become an alcoholic or an addict. So nobody really sets out,
Yeah, to
we
become that, yes.
yeah, yeah, so it's just one of those things. And similarly for me, since it is a little bit about my background and my growing up. So look, I come from a very highly educated family. My father was a government servant. He was a brilliant engineering student. My mom was a gold medalist from the college that she was in Mumbai. And in the 60s, my mother
Yeah.
got a fully paid scholarship to Manchester. And she
Wow.
used to tell me that, yeah, and she told me those tales. In those days, they didn't have too many aircraft flying. So she
Yes.
was on a ship 7 days from Bombay to London to Manchester, and highly educated. My father headed the government trade mission. He was a technocrat, not a bureaucrat, a technocrat. So he headed and helped set up the Indian trading mission in Netherlands, and later on in what was then West Germany. Of course, today it's unified Germany.
Yeah.
So in the 70s, I'm 50 now. I was born in Frankfurt in West Germany and lived for the first 10 years alternating between Germany and the Netherlands. So of course
Wow.
I was little then. I don't have too many memories except of being pushed around in a pram, and snow falling. All Germany, Frankfurt could be cold in the winters,
Yes.
and a little bit of schooling there. And then my dad, for various reasons, came back to India,
Okay.
and he left government service and
Hmm.
moved on to the private side. So that was a pretty major shift for him. So we were in Delhi for a while and then in Calcutta.
Okay.
So my pre-teens and my teens was in Calcutta.
Right.
And yeah, and I have a sister. She's elder, 2 years elder. She's also there's no history, by the way, of alcoholism in the family. So sometimes people link it to genetics, and I've done genetic research on both sides of the family, and I haven't been able to find anyone. So probably I was the first. Yeah.
They, you know, situations. Somebody is asking here, can we also talk in Hindi a bit in between a little? So Amit Garg आपके लिए वो बता रहे हैं अपने बचपन कैसे गुजारा. तो जर्मनी में थे, नेदरलैंड्स में थे, बचपन उधर गुजारा. मम्मी पापा हाईली एजुकेटेड है. पापा गवर्नमेंट सर्विस में थे. मम्मी इतना यंग एज पे उनको मैनचेस्टर में स्कॉलरशिप मिली थी. एंड इतना एजुकेटेड बैकग्राउंड से आए. उनका फैमिली में कोई ऐसा अल्कोहलिक नहीं थे. मगर उनको कैसे चालू हुआ उनको पता नहीं है. तो जेनेटिक्स करके उनको नहीं लग रहा है. एग्जैक्टली.
At least in my case.
Yeah, but
And
we never know. Say for
you never know.
example, in certain situations, cultural backgrounds, our ancestors did not even taste it. So when they did not taste it, we do not know if they had the the genetic inclination to get addicted to it, because if they never tried it, we never know it. So it is like whether I have fear of heights, I will never know unless I
Till
go
you
to
get
an
there.
environment where I try to jump. If I don't do it, I'll
Absolutely.
always say I never have fear of heights, right? तो वही होता है कि हम कुछ एक्सपीरियंस नहीं करते तो हमको नहीं पता चलता. तो दैट इज व्हाट ही इज एक्सप्लेनिंग. सो इन बिटवीन यू कैन टॉक इन हिंदी इफ यू आर कंफर्टेबल, अदरवाइज आई विल डू इट. नो
Sure.
प्रॉब्लम.
I'll rely on you a little bit more, but
या.
maybe once in a while I'll break out into Hindi.
यस. यस.
So,
ओके.
so when my dad moved back, I grew up in Calcutta. And Calcutta, for those of you who are familiar, is known as the club city, the club culture. So
यस.
the family, my parents were members of several clubs, and the house in which we stayed, so that we shared a boundary wall with one of the happening clubs and happening places in Calcutta.
Right.
And so I did a little bit of the club life. I kind of spent my teens growing up in these clubs, which was, I was a good sportsman. I used to play cricket for the club. There were social dues, like Diwali parties, New Year's parties, all that. And I must say that all through this, so my father is a traditional Brahmin. Okay, my mom is Jewish. I'm just sharing that.
Yes.
But the mother, but in Germany, while they spoke German,
Okay.
our mother tongue was English. Always the
तो मम्मी
kids.
और पापा, मम्मी जूइश है, पापा ब्राह्मण है, कहाँ मिले थे?
Bombay में मिले. My
बॉम्बे में.
dad, yes, they met in Bombay. My mom was working. My dad, this is just after his engineering and prior to joining the government.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
pretty much a couple of years after joining government, my dad moved off overseas.
Okay. Correct.
This is
Yeah.
So the scene, so you can get it. It was a nice big house. There were servants aplenty. There were a couple of cars in the garage. We were members of clubs. They were highly educated, and they were on the social circuit in Calcutta. So there were parties happening, wining and dining in other people's homes, and alcohol was always a part of all these functions. That related to alcoholism, I can share that.
Yeah, so it was never considered a taboo. So first of all,
Absolutely not.
it was never considered taboo. It was not looked down upon. It was considered as something normal, and nobody indulged on it. At the same time, nobody considered it a taboo. It was accepted as a norm of life, right?
Absolutely.
It was socializing. I got it.
Absolutely.
So Amit Garg ji वो बता रहे हैं कि उनका मम्मी पापा मिले थे मुंबई में. उनके पापा के एजुकेशन के बाद, मम्मी तो जूइश थी, पापा ब्राह्मण थे, मगर फैमिली में हाईली एजुकेटेड पीपल थे. एंड उनके कलकत्ता में रहते थे. तो एकदम सोशल सर्किट से क्लब्स में मेंबर थे. ये क्रिकेट प्ले करते थे. घर में लोग आना जाना होता था. घर में अल्कोहल सर्व होती थी. तो ऐसा कभी नहीं सोचते थे कि अल्कोहल मना है. और एट द सेम टाइम कोई अल्कोहल बहुत लेके पीते भी नहीं रहते. तो इट वाज नॉट अल्कोहलिज्म, बट एट द सेम टाइम देयर वाज एक्सेप्टेंस. इट वाज जस्ट एज अ सोशल नॉर्म. किसी को एंटरटेन करना है तो वो भी ऑफर करते हैं. उतना ही होता था. Am I right?
Absolutely. It was a tolerant atmosphere. We had a well-stocked bar in all the houses I grew up in.
Yes.
So that's a brief kind of, overview of how it was growing up as a teen.
Right.
Early teens.
Huh. Right. So you were talking about, your childhood, how you grew up along with the clubs and all that. So what kind of company did you keep, and what were the hobbies and pursuits? You said you were like into cricket and all that. So what moved you towards alcoholism? At what age did you start having alcohol?
So see, each of us, and having worked and met up with so many peers and alcoholics and addicts, see, we each have our own individual tales. So this one is a little bit of my own journey and what happened with me personally. So as Girija ji shared, I was very good. I was slightly average on the academic side, but I was very talented. Let me put it that way. On the sports side, I was athlete of the year. I played junior state cricket for my state, West Bengal. We won a lot of accolades and laurels, and so that was up to my class 10th, which was I was in the ICSE board. I was 16 at the time, I remember. And then due to a series of occurrences, and then when I look back at it, I can always identify that I had a lot of for lack of a more poised phase, I'll say a little bit of ego.
Okay.
I was very rigid. I was very, I wanted things my way from a very early age. From a very early age. And for a long time, my parents, with the proverbial silver spoon, they tolerated that. And I got my way. But I wanted to get into a particular high school after my 10th, right?
Okay.
And I, with a little bit of a laugh right now, I'm 50, and so don't take it in a bad way. Because that school, they had a girls' school, and the girls were damn pretty there, and I wanted admission. And the school that I grew up in, Calcutta, was a
I
boys'
totally
only Jesuit
understand.
school.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. I
And I was,
totally understand. Yes.
and at that age, I was extremely curious, and I wanted to be seen with the fair sex, etc. And then for some reason, my parents, who were pretty well connected and could get a lot of stuff done, and I'm saying that with, with humility, they didn't get me into that school, right? And I got upset, and I said I'm dropping out of school. So at the age of 16, after a reasonable class 10th, and being athlete of the year and playing state cricket, I just said, Dad, Mom, I'm taking a year off. My parents
Right.
were busy. I would see them in the evenings. They allowed me to do that. And I decided to sit at home, right? And these are fuzzy memories more than 3 decades ago. But what I do recollect is me sitting alone in this big room. I was a music fan, listening to music, because everybody my age was at school.
Correct.
Everybody that I grew up with, my peers, my colleagues, was at school. And I was alone at home. My sister was in college. My mom was out. My dad was at work, right? I was stuck in my room, morning to evening. And I was also a little ashamed, because if I went out, people say, hey, listen, Vijay, why we dropped out? I didn't know what to tell them.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
started gravitating towards other kids, or I won't say kids, people who are slightly elder than me, who
Hmm.
were either out of college or unemployed, or maybe dropped out of college, maybe 3-4 years elder to me, because
Yeah.
that no, nobody likes to be alone, and neither did
Right.
I. So that was the type of peer group that I surrounded myself with. And they
Hmm.
were elder, so they had started drinking and smoking, and experimenting with recreational drugs, I'll put it that way.
Hmm.
And I had nothing else to do, so I thought it was a
So at the
cool
age
thing
of
to do.
16, you were introduced to
Yeah,
these. Okay. So they say at the below the age of 20, when we started, or rather until the age of 25, the prefrontal cortex is not even completely
not
mature.
developed.
So it changes, and it does a lot of alterations also there. So becoming an addict becomes easier, and you are not able to judge right from wrong. That is also what I hear.
Yes,
Okay.
Girija. I
So
had no sense of morality or right or wrong. I never, ever, ever thought that having 4 whiskeys at 16 or smoking a joint at 17 was ever wrong. And a lot of it I actually did in my house as well. And nobody ever really told me it's wrong either. And the friends, so, I mean, that's the way my mind functioned at
parents
that
were
point.
busy, probably they didn't know about it. And the servants at home wouldn't think it appropriate to report about it, right? They would be afraid. So they want to just keep their jobs. So that is how
Absolutely. Well
probably,
said.
yeah, that is how it goes on. Anyway, so when did you realize that it is interfering with your, family relationship, with your parents, with your sister, with your friends? How did it translate in terms of your relationship? uh, how did it corrupt your way of thinking? How do you would you
Oh,
say that?
oh. That would be a long story, and then, but I'll give you some succinct points.
Glimpse of it, because that is what will make people understand that it is not just something physical, right?
It's an emotional, mental kind
Absolutely.
of. It's.
Yeah.
I believe that alcoholism is a deep-seated emotional disorder, right?
Yeah.
And the alcoholic, or in my case, me,
Mm.
found it extremely difficult to build relationships with anybody. It was not possible for me to build. In India, we were that unlike the West, sometimes in India, we are very closely affiliated to parents and grandparents and extended family and sisters and brothers and वो रीति रिवाज
Yeah.
समाज. तो
Right.
मेरे लिए वो बिल्कुल था नहीं, मेरे जिंदगी में तो था नहीं.
Uh,
And I got so annoyed with my mother, I remember,
hmm.
and I think maybe a little later that'll come out, the reasons, that for several years I started telling my peers and friends that she was my stepmother.
Oh God.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And my father, I had severe trust issues with him due to various things,
Okay.
and I couldn't communicate with him. We live the idea of having dinner together.
Hmm.
See, at 16, sometimes it happens. I've seen it even in teenagers
Yeah.
nowadays.
Right.
Suddenly they become very removed from their parents. So that too happened to me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be with them, next to them, sit with them at a dining table, have lunch with them. Or it, it didn't occur to me.
It happens with many young people because
It
you
happened to me.
find that there are parents who will be all the time saying do speaking in terms of do's and don'ts, and they don't like it. I know what to do with my life. Don't keep on telling me what are the right habits, wrong habits, how I should eat, what I should not touch, all those kind of things, like whom should I be friends with. So that is why they keep alone. We understand
That
that.
was me. What you
Yeah.
said is me. That was who I was.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
All
that
right.
happened with parents, and later on with my sister, but several years later.
Hmm.
So for my sister's first wedding, I have no recollection of the wedding.
Okay.
I in the hotel in which it happened in Bangalore, I booked a hotel suite. I had half a dozen friends with me. We all sat and drank in that room till we passed out.
Oh
But
God.
I was not part of her wedding.
Hmm.
And when in her second wedding, which is another story, I
Yeah.
didn't even see it because I was in a rehab center. So there was, so those alcoholic years, I think,
You're totally cut off from family,
from
right?
family.
So they must have
Totally.
also felt so isolated. They must have felt so deserted because that is one relationship. For parents it is like son, and for sister brother is something that you look up to, something that you always want to hold very dear. And if it is not, he's not showing up at the most critical moment, it would have been very painful for her too, right? At that point
Oh,
you wouldn't have even realized it because
yes, yes.
for you that was, yeah.
See, today, see, with hindsight, see, as we mature, we realize today I've
Yeah.
got a son who's 17, my only son.
Yeah.
And I know how protective I am about him. And I can just imagine that, how my parents must have felt when
Yeah.
I was 17 and going through this. I don't know. I've shared this link with my sister.
Mm,
She's probably here somewhere. And
mm.
even my father, because the story into recovery was great, but as an active alcoholic, I didn't have any family time that I would care to, be proud about.
Yeah. So then, of course, yes, those were very grim days, and definitely. But looking back, you have got the insights what actually went wrong, and that is possible because you have relapsed and you have recovered completely, and you are able to look at it from a distance, from a third person's point of view, right? So you are able to distance yourself from that feeling that I'm there. But those who are suffering at the present point of time, when they cannot overcome, probably they won't be able to even look at it objectively because they'll either go over through feel guilt, or they will
Or
feel
helplessness.
with the people who are telling them those things that you are doing this. They will not like it, right? So now, you grew up, you said that you were in rehab when your sister got married. So you said twice, first you were in rehab when we were conversing, then the third rehab was what work for you. So first two times, how did you go to rehab and why did it not work for you?
Okay, so it's a gap of several years. So what happened is when I was about 17 and 1 year sitting at home, and then my parents put me into one of the best boarding schools. I ran away from there in 15 days. They got me admission in another school. I'm sorry, I'm not very proud of a lot of things that I did, but I fought with the principal and left that school one fine afternoon. I don't know why. I just did it. Maybe my alcoholic mind thought in those ways.
Yeah.
And I have had those conversations with my mother. She is no more, but in happier times. And what I've understood today is they just didn't know what to do with me, right?
Exactly. There was
Uh,
probably not much help also available for them at the time. Online, internet was not available. Not many people knew about these kind of organizations. So anybody would be flustered what to do, right? Sense of bewilderment. What have we got into? And everybody loves their child, so a sense of desperation comes in, right? As a parent, when I look at her, I feel, oh God, she must have been very desperate because only son, and what is it like? So then, how did you get into the first rehab? Like,
So while at the time I was extremely angry. Today, when I look at it in hindsight, I understand that they did what they thought best. They acted upon information which they had, and from somebody somewhere, some doctor, some shame, and I have no grouse against those, would have rightly told them, hey, look, maybe you admit him into a rehab for a couple of weeks and let's see what happens. So all I know is one day the bell rang and a couple of these hefty bodyguard type guys came and got me in,
took you
and
over.
so so it was definitely not with my will or my knowledge. And anyway, I was a minor then legally, and I
Right.
found myself in this place in Calcutta.
Mm,
I remember the name, but I won't say it here.
mm.
And for 2 weeks, I was, in a couple of closed rooms, and every day, the psychiatrist would call me down and give me a couple of chocolates because I looked very innocent and all that at 16. And he was also kind of wondering maybe why I'm there.
Mm.
And I didn't look like an alcoholic, I must say. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I don't want to be judgmental.
Yeah.
But they gave me some candies and talked to me a few things, and I answered them. And I would go back to my room and be locked up again. That happened the first time.
Mm. So there
The
was
second,
there was a belief that you would listen to sense and you would come back. So they did not do much about it. So when you came back, you didn't find that there was a deep
but I
change.
was angry when I came back. When I came back, I must
That
share
is the
this.
essence.
I
Yes.
was angry with my parents for what I thought they were infringing on my rights, and for caging up the lion in me. And I said, I'm going to teach them a lesson. And the day I got out, I drank. Right.
Oh, okay.
The day I got out, just to spite them, I drank.
Mm.
See,
Oh God.
Girijaji, what I share is that
Yeah.
my emotional state, my mental state, my way of thinking was very, very, very different
I
at 16.
understand totally.
I
Yes.
don't know why it was like that.
Yeah,
And
it is like you are saying that to spite them, you drank. So it is like
and
you
and
to
drugs.
spite the to get you get angry with your face. You to spite the face, you cut off your nose. It was like that, right?
So
You
that's what I
harming
did.
yourself to teach them a lesson.
So of course, afterwards, a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists have sat with me and tried to explain to me some of my actions. But after that, I got into self harm.
Oh God.
So I did a few things. I broke a few pains. I cut myself in a few places. I popped too many pills on occasion. I don't know. I was trying to get my parents' attention or what, or it was a cry for help, or it was trying to reach out. I didn't know why I was doing half the stuff I was doing.
Hmm.
But the second time, my parents actually, so maybe 6 months later, I don't remember the exact date, but maybe six
Hmm.
months later, the second time they put me in for a month because they actually thought I was harming myself. Forget about the
Yes.
alcohol, but
To
this guy,
safeguard yourself. Yeah.
so I found myself in that same place again
Okay.
for a month this time.
Okay.
The same doctor, and he was not that forthcoming with the candies at that point of time, but we talk a little bit, and that happened. And I came out, and now this time, if people who may have been through this might identify, for some others they might not,
Hmm.
but I was extremely angry this time. I was even angrier,
Okay.
right? And then I did a few things of which I am not very proud. See, the alcoholic, the addict, see, even normal human beings, we've done a lot of stuff in our past, and sometimes we're not very happy and proud about a lot of stuff, but I did a lot of stuff that I was not proud about.
Hmm.
And I got physically abusive and violent and all that.
Hmm.
And about 6 months later, I found myself this time in a mental institution.
Oh God.
And this was for 3.5 months, right?
Okay.
And there were whole, I mean, I won't get into what the doctors call treatment and pills and injections, whatever, but I was pretty much like, for lack of better words, zoned out. And I'm not blaming anybody.
Yeah. Got it.
I'm just saying that everybody was trying to help me. Everybody was trying to do the best that they could. I
Yes.
wasn't getting it. I wasn't understanding it.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I'd come out worse than before. And after 3.5, and I remember, what I do remember is, in that mental institution, I was telling every doctor I could find, hey, look, I'm not mad,
Yeah.
and at 17 and a half, that was my life.
Got it. Yes.
Yeah.
So now, moving on. So you were there already twice for a short period, for 2 weeks, and then 3.5 months, and then you were in a mental institution, but none of that helped. And in the meantime, you met your life partner, and you married her. So how did that happen? And what
So
was
there's a
her journey through this?
there's a bit of a gap. So all this happened pre-18. Then I was
Right.
18. Then my parents packed me off for a year to Europe.
Mm.
I lived there. I did the typical backpack because I just wanted to get out of this whole scene, and I wanted to explore the world and all that, and they allowed me to do that. And then I came back. I did correspondence courses. Got through my 12th. Then at a point of time, my parents got me. There's another story. I ran away from Calcutta, etc. Whatever. I mean, it was a deranged. It was. I won't say deranged, but it was a very shattered, battered kind of existence that I had through those growing up years. And we've missed one aspect, but okay, we'll see if we get back to that. And at about 25,
We can
I
talk about it and then go to 25.
okay,
No
okay.
problem. Yeah.
So at about 21, uh, you know, again, at that age, grappling, I was 6 feet, I was strong, I was big, I was drinking, drugging, I'd got into pills, I'd got into recreational marijuana, I'd got into hashish. I didn't want to, carry on after studying after 12th. I didn't want to work, whatever. I was pretty much antisocial, for lack of a good
That's
phrase.
a word. Yeah.
And I was on borderline. I thought easy money and how to. I actually thought, and don't laugh at me now. I actually thought, so my idea was to become an underworld gangster or a don and to extort money and to become rich and famous. And I thought that's the right thing to do and that's the cool thing to do and that's the way that my brain functioned at 19, 20.
Yeah.
And
I
my
can
parents.
understand. Some of the media also portrays them as heroes, right?
As
Like
good.
they
Yeah, yeah.
show
I
them
thought
as,
I thought those guys were my heroes.
yeah, exactly. So a lot
I
of people,
chose
young
that
people
side.
I've heard this from many young people that they were influenced by the media to do this.
And
Yes.
and also, if you look at some of the Hindi movies, I'm not blaming them. I love them. But some of the Amitabh Bachchan movies where he's a gangster. Also, I grew up with that. Yeah. My name is Vijay because I think my parents were inspired by a lot of his movies, and I thought that's a cool life. No, I thought how cool is that? Yeah. And so that's the delusional thinking. I mean, it's not normal. I won't say delusional. It's not normal, at least not for
Yeah.
society. It's antisocial.
Yeah.
And so they again tried to put me into a mental institution slash rehab center. And
Mm.
this time I ran away and I actually, the guys that tried to catch me,
Mm.
I physically assaulted them
Got
and
it.
I left them, I wasn't sure they were going to make it. So I think there were cops after me. All that has been solved and sorted and I have no qualms in talking about it. But
Mm.
I kind of figured out that Calcutta was too unsafe for me. So I ran away, sat on a train without a ticket, without money, clothes on my back,
Mm.
and moved to Bombay.
Okay.
Right. And at Bombay, so the alcoholic is also pretty smart at times. I must tell you, a lot of us are talented and we've got ways of surviving. And so I picked up a job, worked in a restaurant. I would get food, I'd get some tips, I'd get free alcohol, I'd make some money, etc.
Mm.
I started living in Bombay, and
Okay.
it took me a good 4 or 5 years to complete my graduation through correspondence,
Mm.
and then to make up with my parents who then my dad had retired in Calcutta and
Mm.
moved to his birthplace Bangalore.
Mm. Bangalore. Okay.
1995, 1996, after 4 years of silence, I wasn't in touch with them. They didn't know where I was.
Mm.
I reached out, I found out where they were, and I said, hey, I want to come home. Say, I was still drinking, but I wanted to meet them.
Mm.
And I got into Bangalore and I met them. And while at Bangalore,
Mm.
Bangalore was a pub city in those days. For those of you from that
Right.
part of the world,
Malaya was huge
yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everywhere
Malia,
he has set it up.
all
Yes.
the
I'm
all the
aware
liquor brands were based out of Bangalore at one
of
point of time.
Bangalore. Yeah.
and we would party till late, and that's the life I wanted. I had my motorbike and my leather jacket and music in my ears, and I'd be there. And I met this person who's today my wife, my life partner. I met her at a party,
Okay.
and we got dating. And so, sorry, what was the question again? A little bit about my life partner.
Yeah. Just a
Okay.
minute. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And and look at the irony of it. I met her at a bar. At a
Okay.
bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was partying. She was partying with her friends. Sparks flew. Sometimes the Dutch courage with a couple of drinks in the belly. I went up. I spoke to her. We
Yeah.
hit the dance floor, and then I dropped her back to her hostel. She was studying, right,
Right. And at
in
the time
Bangalore.
you were working?
Yes, I was working. I had gotten a job, my first job,
Mm.
in Bangalore, in a small little advertising agency.
Yes.
And I liked the fine arts, and I'd seen a little bit of the rough side. So I think I was talented for what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And that's how we met. That's how it started. And the dating time is a lot of fun. We overlook each other's
Falls.
shortcomings.
Yes.
We're
We
driven
choose
by
not to do that. Yes.
hormones and whatever.
Mm.
And she's a beautiful girl. She's from the northeast, very
Yes.
traditional. Yeah, but that happened. And
Yeah.
so we
So
dated for.
against all her parents or the background, the traditional background, she married you.
I'll tell you. So that's the okay. Good. So you want. So I'll get on to that
I
track.
wanted to see how you got married and how this later on must have come. At the time, like you said, when you're in romancing, you don't realize all these things, but then it must have hit her as a reality. And how did she cope with it?
No,
That's
no,
what
and when I was dating, trust me, I tried my best to not let her see how much I drank. I drink two, three
Yeah.
drinks, and we'd have fun and go dancing and do all that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, because I'd pick her up in my bike and we'd go places, and then in the night she needed to be back at the hostel, so I'd drop her there.
Yeah.
And then I started doing reasonably okay at work. I got a couple of promotions, money started coming in, and I rented a house simply because I wanted the love of my life to be with me. So, marriage was far out of my mind at 24, 25. I must have been at that point of time.
Mm.
So I told her, hey, Des, why don't you come in and live in with me? Right.
Mm.
So uh, we were in a live in relationship
Okay.
for 2, 3 years.
Mm.
That's when I think she would have got to see me some of my heavier drinking. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, and then, on a Saturday, so morning to evening, she was working, I was working. In the evening, a couple of drinks are okay. But then on the Saturday, Sunday, when I should be taking her out and doing stuff and going here, going there, I'd probably be with the bottle, because when I was working, my alcoholic life in my early formative career was binge drinking. I couldn't drink Monday to Thursday unless it was in the night,
Yeah.
right? Because I had work the next day. But I would drink Friday to Sunday.
Mm.
And if I couldn't get high on alcohol,
Mm.
remember what I shared. I was a pill popper, so I do a lot of anti-anxiety pills or sleeping pills, and get my
That is
high.
dangerous, isn't it?
It is in
Dangerous.
hindsight, it alters chemical.
Yeah, it is too
It, it,
dangerous.
it really it puts you on the back foot. It's
Yeah.
done a lot of harm at that point of time, at least.
Right.
And so she lived in with me, and then a couple of years, 2, 3 years, and then an incident happened. I
Mm.
choose not to go into the exact details of that incident here.
Yeah.
But a couple of days later, it was Valentine's Day. So, in the true alcoholic bravado style, on February 14th, I told her, Daisy, now let's not live together, let's get married.
Okay.
Her parents balked. My parents balked because she's from Northeast.
Yeah.
Of course, my parents had a love marriage, but my mom was still slightly orthodox in her thinking.
Mhm.
And anyway, I wasn't listening to them. I was earning money. I was living in a rented house with the love of my life. I didn't care two hoots about society. I
Mm.
honestly didn't. And even today, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
So we did a court marriage. I took her, got a witness, couple of my friends, her friends. We went to the court and got married.
Mm.
2001. This
Okay.
is.
Mm.
But by then, she kind of knew that this guy is drinking a lot. And I will share this, Girija ji, for people who might identify. I still tried to hide my drinking from her. I
Yeah.
would, so earlier I would buy a full bottle proudly display it and drink it,
Mhm.
proceed to drink it.
Right.
But in my live-in relationship, I never bought a full bottle. I bought, for those of you that
Small.
understand, 90s quarters. I would
Yeah.
buy 4 quarters,
And you
which is the
hide
same,
them.
and hide it. So my wife, whenever she came into the dining room, into the hall, the television was there, and I'd be there, feet up, drinking. She'd see only a quarter. So I would try to hide so that she doesn't know how much I'm drinking.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got away with it or if she guessed, because sometimes I would actually go flat out and not be able to have dinner and pass out, and I'm sure she would have suspected.
Yeah. No, these instincts are very strong, but then sometimes, you know, it is a point of no return for her. Like the family, what they would say. So once you get into a commitment, then for women, it is difficult.
At least in
Most,
India,
most,
currently it is.
yeah.
I'm very lucky, very,
Mm.
very lucky, because any right thinking woman would have left the person that I had become. Okay. But yes, there was, she had gone against her family to
Yeah.
be with me,
And against her best reasoning also.
and against her
She
best
was
reasoning.
educated, she was working, so she was aware, right? But still, yeah,
And she did care for me. And what I'll say is, she put much, much, much more effort to make it work
yeah,
than I did.
yeah.
And
So how
I'm
long this continued? Like you are
so from the age
hiding
of,
the story.
for about 3 years, 2 years that we dated, it wasn't that bad. But 3 years that we lived together, she would have seen the bad part of me,
Yeah.
and or the ugly part of me. And then after marriage, the worst part of me, for about 5 6 months. I don't know why,
Okay.
but my drinking. So we got married in February,
Mm.
and my drinking just shot off the roof. Nothing directly related with her, but
Yeah.
still some anger, possibly anger issues
Yeah.
with
And
my
also
parents.
taking for granted, right? Anyways, now she's mine. So
Yeah, kind
nothing
of, yeah.
to.
So sometimes we men, not all men, but as an Indian man, probably I had very much taken a lot of people for granted.
Yeah. So then what was the turning point after 6 months? How did it occur that you
So
moved on?
so
It must have been very
so
terrible for her, like you were not available for her during weekends or for weekdays, whatever it was, right? It is like dealing with all that alone. And she wouldn't have even
and
shared it with your parents, perhaps, because already there was
look,
opposition, right?
look,
Yeah.
I will give her this, and with no disrespect to my mom, but these are, you see, it's my personal story. These things happen in other
Yeah.
families, may not happen. बट माँ बाप को कभी अपना लड़का लाडला गलत नहीं लगता. My parents, actually they thought I was right and she couldn't handle me. So she had dual pressure from her parents as well
Yeah.
as mine. They thought that she was
Right.
aggravated, she couldn't control me, she could whatever. So she bore
Yeah.
the brunt of it from both sides, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then what happened is, about February, March, April, May, June, 4 months after marriage.
Hmm.
So I was binge drinking like bad then. Okay.
Okay.
uh, uh, and I don't know. So look, a lot of that time is a haze. Try as I might, there's a lot of stuff I don't remember. But what I do remember is, I went from my house to my parents' home,
Hmm.
and I threatened them. And I actually, I think I didn't touch them, but I kind of brandished a weapon or something and showed it to them. And I said, "Hey, look, now you have to sell your property. You have to
Oh.
give me all the money, because
Hmm.
I am married. And you have to set me up." It was a sense of entitlement. Sometimes
Right.
I actually thought that,
Absolute right, sense of entitlement. Yeah,
that
absolutely.
my parents were responsible for me, and they
Yeah.
needed to manage my life.
Right.
And I did that, and they were so scared, poor things.
Hmm.
And my dad was then probably, what, 60s, right? And retired and trying to lead a peaceful life. So they didn't know what to do, and I passed out in their home. It was a Sunday morning that I went and threatened them, and
Mhm.
it was Sunday night that I kind of opened my eyes. They had run away from their own house. They had
Hmm.
left their house and gone. And
Okay.
the bell rang, and there were these four cops who said, "Come on with me."
Oh,
And I
okay.
found myself in my fourth rehab center, right?
Oh.
So
Hmm.
imagine my wife. She's married me 4 months back. I
Yeah.
lived in a rented house. While
Right.
she earned, she didn't earn enough to pay the rent, right?
Yeah.
And my parents have picked me up, her husband, legally married husband,
Yeah.
because I told them, and put me into a rehab center where I was for 4 months, and
Yeah.
she had no money and she had no security. And
Right.
she was actually told, not again, they did, everybody did what they thought right.
Yeah,
I don't blame,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That's
but
true.
they told her, leave him and go back to Nagaland.
Oh God.
Divorce him and go back to where you've come from. That
Mm,
woman stuck around, Girija.
mm,
She couldn't afford that house. She moved into a one-bedroom house,
okay.
sh- which had an Indian toilet for the first time in my life. When I came out of rehab, I went into. I mean, it's just my personal
Mm,
story. I'm used to it.
right. Yeah.
Gas leak pump. She would cook food. We
Mm.
had no money. We didn't. And she moved in there for 4 months till I was allowed to come out of the rehab.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
and 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 what I will say is, just before I came out, there was a family meeting. My parents refused. My mom came once, yeah, but my wife came in,
Mm,
and they asked me,
mm,
"Look, you can't drink this, that, whatever." And then I actually looked at her, and with all honesty in my heart, and I felt it, I
mm.
told her, "Get me out of this place. I'll never drink again." And she actually did. She took a risk. I was discharged against
Your
medical advice.
mom?
My wife.
Oh, your wife. Okay. Yeah.
She was
Okay.
allowed to come in, and
Right.
she said, "I'll take the responsibility. I'll handle this guy. Let him out." And I said, "Get me out of this place. I'll never drink again." And I
Mm,
actually meant it at that point in time.
mm,
And she did that, and that's when I came out to reality. And
mm,
then so that this happened in 2002,
mm.
and since then I haven't had to see the other side of a rehab ever again.
Wow. Wow. So more than 20 years you have now remained, you have abstained from alcohol. Absolutely. You don't have a sip
Alcohol,
also?
drugs, cigarettes went out of the way some years back, but
Okay.
any type of physical intoxication, chemical
Wonderful.
intoxication.
Wonderful. So you have quit alcohol completely for good, and you don't even take a sip for the last 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Um,
So now you experience life differently. So what is it
you
that
bet, yeah.
found difference? Yes, I just want to know how life was while you were in that twilight zone, and how life it is now that you've come to clarity. So what do you see difference?
So a little bit, should I also share a little bit on the white light moment and then get here?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I want to know that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so what changed? So if you intrinsically ask me, did any of the rehab centers or the mental institution get me off alcohol? The short answer to that is no. It kept me away from alcohol, a drug of my choice, for the period of time that I was incarcerated there. But
Mm.
as I shared with you, the moment I came out, I went back with double a vengeance.
Right.
However, in 2002, something happened,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
For the first time, and I will share this in a little bit of detail if you'll allow me. So when I was in that center, rehab
Hmm.
center,
Right.
a couple of months without alcohol in the system, I think the
Hmm.
brain waves and the way that you start thinking. See, when you have alcohol, you're fogged. The
Right.
thinking is altered, the experiences is altered. But suddenly, when that alcohol gets out of the blood system and out of the head, sometimes clarity comes. Yeah, and thinking patterns change and evolve as they do in recovering alcoholics.
Hmm.
And about 3 months into that stint,
Hmm.
I found myself like, hey, for the first time in my life, I found myself telling myself, hey, Vijay, you're 31 years old. You've done this in your life, and all your intelligence, all my intelligence has got me locked up in a rehab center.
Exactly.
Something is wrong. If I think I'm this intelligent guy who can hustle his way through life,
Yeah.
and get to the next trick in the book, but where has it landed me? And for the first time, I actually felt that things are not right. I am not correct. My house is not in order. And while it was a revelation, it's also scary, because till I thought the world has a problem, I could continue in my way, because I
Yeah.
thought the problem was with you guys, right?
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
moment I realized the problem is with me, it's also scary. What do I do?
Yeah. How do I change
I
this
don't want to become
behavior?
an alcoholic or an addict and have all these terrible experiences in my life, but it's happened. What do I
Hmm.
do? How do I change? I had no clue, right?
Right.
And in short, on a one of the nights, right, I found myself crying. Just what I remember is I was weeping silently at the state that my life had become, right? I wasn't happy and I couldn't find the answer anywhere. The answer was, I mean, not coming to me. And while I always believed in God, I'm not really devoutly religious in a particular form.
Yeah.
In my head, I just asked, I reached out to this power and I said, if you exist, show yourself to me. Why me? Why am I suffering? Why am I in pain? And I asked that fundamental question, what is the purpose of my existence? Because my existence was miserable. If I were to die the next second, it wouldn't have mattered to anybody in the world. My parents hated me, they wanted me out of the system.
No,
My
no, no,
wife,
no, no. That I don't think they hated you, but they
you
didn't
know
know what to do
no,
exactly. That was the perspective you had at that
yeah,
point of
no,
time. You
no.
thought
I'll tell you,
parents
see,
hated. Why would
my parents
they
loved
hated?
me till the day my mother died, but in her
Yeah,
hard moments, and I'll share this, and I'll say this, and don't get upset, okay? Any of you viewers.
yeah,
My mother actually once told me, see, something stick in your head. She told me, I don't know why I shitted you out of my system. That was the extent of damage I'd done to her. So she loved me till the day she died. But I think they were absolutely frustrated and fed up with
yeah,
what
exactly.
I'd become, right?
Yeah.
And there I said, hey, Bhagwan, abhi tu hi sambhal. Mujhe to samajh mein aaya nahi. And
Oh,
I'll tell you, Girija ji, as loud as you can hear me and I can hear you,
yeah.
on that night, at that instance, I heard the voice of God and I got my answer. All the questions and confusion in my life, in that brief flash, I got my answer. And I knew that from that moment on,
What is it that you heard?
I cannot exactly share that. It's very deep, it's very intrinsic,
Hmm.
but it I can give you an overview.
Broad
It
hit. Yeah,
I got the reason for my existence in life.
yeah,
And I also got what I got is, see, sometimes I was a little bit of that scientific mind. I wanted to understand who you are, what you are, where you are, etc., including with God. Otherwise, I didn't want to believe in you.
yeah.
What I understood is I am incapable of comprehending that energy, that karmic, cosmic energy that exists. And that is what we are as humans. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist and doesn't care for me.
Exactly. We may
I
not
cannot
realize.
understand. I don't know the shape. I don't know the form. I don't know how it looks. I don't know the color. Till today, I don't. Right? But that
Yes,
energy exists and that energy will look after me. And I have to do certain things in return. And I've lived my life
really
pretty
get
much on that
goosebumps.
path.
Last time when you told me, also I got goosebumps, and now again, it's really
Because it's revealing, see, either God is or he
transformation.
isn't. But if he isn't, it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Existence doesn't matter. But if he is, and I don't want to go very deep into this, but if he is or she is or whatever form is, then imagine how powerful that form will be. And
yeah,
if you learn how to communicate with that form, any problem in life you can manage. Whatever life throws at you, you will
very true.
manage.
Very true. Yes. It is probably that guiding voice that, you know, takes us out of the dark tunnels in our life and
Yes,
shows us
absolutely.
that there is a light at the
See,
end
we
of
have
it.
to reach out. We have to ask.
We have to
Okay.
ask. Yes.
But if you ask sache dil se na,
Yeah.
it happens.
Get it. Yeah.
Anybody. I'm not special. I'm not some special guy, right? Lord on the Mount, Miracle on the Mount. Anybody can reach out to that. Just find the reason for your existence and find your own higher power. You'll be fine in life.
Absolutely. So, instead of surrendering yourself to the chemical substances for happiness, you chose to surrender to this divine power, the
Absolutely.
universal power, and
Absolutely.
that gave you a way out of the, confusion that your life was in, right?
Absolutely. It changed
So
my
now
life. You
you are
know my story.
experiencing joy of life. What is it that the difference between that zone and today's clarity that you have gotten?
Oh, it's a complete reboot. Sometimes when your computer crashes, what do? The IT guy will
Yeah,
come and say,
rebooting
reboot
life
karo
is
madam.
totally, yeah.
Right? Or as
So
I
how
shared
has that
with you,
reboot worked for you? That's what I want to know. Exactly.
You watch one of these traditional Hindi movies. In the first half, the villain is dishum 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 bashing up the hero, but somehow towards the end, the hero comes back and all is well.
Yeah.
So there's my life as an alcoholic addict,
Yeah.
and there's my life as a recovered alcoholic addict.
Yeah.
And I must say, recovered. When I say recovered, it means I've recovered from the mental obsession to drink. Right?
Yes.
It doesn't mean I'm cured. I
Yeah.
mean, if I pick up, I've lost the choice of drink. If I pick up that first sip tomorrow morning or after the show, back I go again. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm only recovered in the sense that obsession is lifted. I don't really obsess about alcohol. It doesn't really affect me. Other people drink around me.
It's
It
not
doesn't
all the
affect.
time occupying your thought. When this will get over, when can I go and have my drink? Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So what happens is, so talking about life in recovery,
Hmm.
see, when the chemical substance goes,
Hmm.
the first thing that happens is there is physical regeneration. You feel fitter, you feel happier. I shared with you. I
Hmm.
don't know when. So I've been so many times to Goa, for people who
Yeah.
are familiar. And I
Hmm.
used to go to Goa only to drink because liquor was cheap there and you could party all night and
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I had never seen the sun rise in Goa. I didn't know what is sun, beach, sand, whatever. Only alcohol I knew. Today I've been to Goa maybe 5 times a year. And without alcohol, people around me are drinking. I don't stop them. Let them have their fun. I have mine. And
Yeah.
alcohol in moderate quantities for a social person is not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
My own personal opinion. For me, it's terrible. I can't touch even one. But when you see the sunrise and you see the waves and you see the walk with your toes on hot sand,
Yeah.
so the second thing that happens, you start feeling. I
Yeah.
start feeling things because alcohol numbs you.
Right.
The alcoholic has numbed his feelings, is incapable of understanding what is right, wrong, love, lust. सब feelings एक pressure cooker में खिचड़ी हो जाता है. Moment alcohol is out of the system, you start new tastes come. How food tastes, and Indian cuisine is lovely. I become a foodie now, yeah. When I travel anywhere in the world, a lot of other people will look, what is this bottle of wine or this new whatever. I look, if I go to Korea, I want Korean cuisine. If I go to China, I want Chinese cuisine. If I go to a nice restaurant, I want five-star cuisine, right? There are
Lovely.
so many things to enjoy.
Yeah.
Sound, sight. So feelings come in, emotions come in, and then
Right.
relationships mend.
Absolutely. Your wife and your child
I
you got
think
later,
my
right?
father, first my dad,
Hmm.
then my mother,
Hmm.
then my sister, both whose her weddings I missed,
Hmm.
then my wife, and
So your mother
then
saw you recover and
oh
she,
yes, she spent
yeah.
10 happy years with me, and she
Wow.
was so proud. So in my work life in Bombay,
Hmm.
just 3 or 4, I told you I never had lunch or sat at a dining table with my family.
Right.
I
Yeah.
would make it a point to, and I've been blessed, God has been kind in my work life. I would make it a point to make work in their city. I would fly down
Yeah.
just to have a meal with my parents and my sister. And my sister, who I bullied so much, she would then pinch my cheeks and tell me I'm balding, and that felt so nice. What I couldn't do at 20, I did at 40. ठीक है, थोड़ा late था.
Yes. At least later, better late than never.
Better late than so. And then I saw in my mother's eyes.
Uh-huh.
So every year on her birthday, I'd go there.
Yeah.
Probably not my dad, but my mother's birthday, I'd go there.
Mhm.
And remember, this was the woman who I grew up saying she is my stepmother.
Mhm.
And I saw in her eyes, she never wanted me to do well or do whatever. She just wanted to see that her son is okay.
Good human being, right? Somebody whom you can rely upon. Somebody, she's proud that a grandson, responsible husband, responsible son. That's all you want to see. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I just felt happy knowing that my family, my first family, sees that their son, their brother is doing okay, and wo
Yeah.
bhi khush, hum bhi khush. And then of course the wife, Girija.
Yeah.
So for the wife, that's a separate session. One day we'll do to the wives, but what I'll say is,
Mm.
I know what is wrong,
Yeah.
and now by default
Yeah.
I know what has to be done, and I spend every waking hour of my life,
Uh,
my immediate family. So if my wife and if my son aren't smiling and aren't reasonably happy, and if I can't be a companion, a husband, a father, and even to a housekeeper who's now like my adopted daughter, she's been with me ever since my son has been 2.
okay.
Then what is my worth as a human being? What is the reason of my existence? Remember, I asked you that. Why do I exist? I have
Yes.
my answer. I try to live it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And God is kind, and that's what it is. So it's jovial, it's fun. Of course, everything's not hunky dory. We have our ups and downs. We also have our coupley issues, as any couple should. But it's very healthy. I will not go to sleep
I know.
with a rift in my head. I have that for the last 20 years. If there's an issue, anybody, wife, son, workplace, friends, family, that issue must be resolved before I sleep. And if resolve means I have to say I am sorry, even if it's not my fault, this is the difference. I
Yes.
would rather say sorry, resolve that, and go to sleep. And
Yeah,
life is
because
beautiful.
there's
You
no
must
ego,
admit.
like, right? There is no ego now. That's the thing, right?
See,
Absolutely.
I'm human being. It comes up from time to time. But
Yeah.
when it comes up and I know that I've goofed up, I realize it. वो
Yes.
realization आता है कि विजय तूने किसी को चिल्लाया आज गलत बोला. नहीं, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Very true. So the now this has impacted, like you said, your relationship with your parents. You mended it with your sister. Yes, of course, you have tried to do amends, and similarly with your wife and son. Your son. What about your son? Does he know that you were an alcoholic at one point of time and you've recovered? How did you explain this to him so that he doesn't fall into that trap?
So in my own personal journey,
Yeah.
I believe that I am truly blessed, right? That my son, and it's my own personal thing, has never seen his father drink,
Wonderful.
because I know what my father went through when I drank, right?
Yeah.
And has never had to see the gray and the dark days of my life that my wife and my parents have seen. So A, that is a blessing.
Mm.
And B, see, the other thing is, of course, the universal power. The second is the power of love. I don't want to go very deep into philosophy.
Yeah.
So after quitting drugs, alcohol, and pills, I still smoked 20 a day.
Yeah.
My son was three years old.
Yeah.
He saw me in the balcony of our house smoking,
Mm.
and he said something. I don't remember what he said exactly, but
Right.
at that moment, I felt I should stop
Stop.
smoking. And I
That's so
embarked on a particular course, and I embarked on a program.
nice.
And there are it isn't as easy as I make it out to be, but there were things that I did and whatever I continue to do. And I
Yeah.
was able to quit that addiction as well.
Wonderful.
And my
So you
son
had
knows.
two multi-pronged attacks,
Yeah.
and you had to face all of them alone, and you had to fight those demons. Uh,
I'm an addictive personality. I can catch on to any addiction, any addiction. So I recognize that about myself, right? Alcohol happened to be the drug of choice, easiest to procure.
yeah.
But I felt it is important to sit. See, my son will grow old. He will make his own. He's 17. He's what I was, right?
Yeah.
Uh, he will have to make choices. He will have to face life. He will have to see life. And I don't want to impose my values on him.
Right.
Simply, I mean, I'd be very happy if my son never drank, picked up a drink in his life. But who am I to say, right?
Yeah.
So I felt it is important for every parent to sit with their kids at a particular age and talk about the birds and the bees and talk about various other stuff. And
Mm.
I did that with my son David.
Okay.
And he knows why his father doesn't. Not I don't get into graphic details, and that's not required. Just the basic
Yes.
sense of why I don't drink, and what a little bit about you know the fact that any activity done in excess can be very harmful.
Absolutely.
Today kids are on their internets and tablets for 14 hours a day. I think that's a very harmful habit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it is important, and we don't sweep it under the. Today we have information, as you said, Girijaji. You can find out stuff on the net. You can find out if you know you have a problem. You can Google it, and you get the answer. Kya karna hai? So it's
Correct.
very important because
It is
I don't want that.
the
Yeah,
will to do that, right? Like you said very rightly, you need to have the will to do that. Then there are answers.
and you need to communicate. So I don't want my son to ever grow up, and I don't think any kid should grow up saying, "Oh, my parents were very busy. My dad was working. Mother didn't have time for me. We couldn't have lunch or dinner at the dining table." That happened in my life. It doesn't have to happen between me and my son or as generations grow. So I've
Yeah.
learned a lot.
Very true.
So parenting is
Absolutely.
important, but I always still believe that because of my shortcomings, my wife is the better parent. So I leave some of the
decisions.
what are the man talk I do, but I think she guides that ship really well,
Is
much
she
better than I
working
do.
now?
No,
Is
now
your wife?
ever since David was born,
Okay.
she's looking after a house. She has her hands full and she does a great job. And sometime when you're in Mumbai, I call you home. She's an excellent cook.
Oh, yeah.
You will enjoy her cooking. I
Lovely.
kick out on it. Yeah,
That's nice. Like you said, that once your taste buds improve, then you begin to enjoy home food. Until then, you
absolutely.
don't. Home is not home because you are in a
Yeah, yeah.
different
You
zone.
never have food. You can't taste. See, when I was an alcoholic, my
Yeah.
stomach is limited. No, either I
Right.
can put food in it or alcohol. So the true alcoholic, will put only alcohol. There's no
Ex-
question of food. We don't know what we ate, when we ate, and I certainly don't remember it then, but now I do. So it's
Yeah.
it's a total reboot, and
Absolutely.
it's not hard. It's not difficult. There's no major science course that I've done or whatever. There are a few things we do, and if you ever reach out to me, I'm happy to tell you what I did.
Excellent. Wonderful. Wonderful. If there are any general tips that you want to leave the people who are struggling with alcohol with what they can do, then you can do that. That would be the most powerful closing message that you can give. And then we will also take questions from the viewers if you have any. Yeah.
See, what I want to say on this is no matter who you are, no matter what your circumstances. I have seen people in denial because somebody says, I don't have money. Somebody says, I couldn't get education. Therefore, I drink, I drug. I don't have, my parents did this or society did this. Yeah, mere saath. So that poor me story sometimes keeps us in denial or keeps us in addiction or alcoholism. What my short, simple message is no matter who you are, no matter how far down you've fallen or you think you've fallen, right? What is important is I cannot change your past. Nobody, human beings don't have the power to change the past. What's happened in your life till 1 second ago, I cannot change. But how you react to it, what you do now is in your control, in your hand. And if you think you have a problem as a, or you think, as I didn't become an alcoholic overnight, small social drinking, moderate drinking, heavy drinking, slightly heavier drinking. Right now, if you think you're in the heavy drinking phase, then get some information and safeguard yourself so that it becomes preventive. The alcoholic or the addict suffers a little bit, but half the time we are zoned out, so our families suffer around us. Each alcoholic, his family or her family will suffer, and this is a gender neutral disease, happens to women as well, right? So if you're a family member, understand that it's not a bad person or a mad person. He or she is sick,
Yeah.
right, and needs some help, and there is help available. If you get on the Google, if you get on internet, you'll find umpteen information on how to get help. And most of all, what I realized, most of all, is I cannot do this alone. If I sit with this, whatever your problem is in life, today's discussion, it's alcohol. If I just sit with this problem and say this is I can't be the problem and solve the problem myself also.
Mm.
I need to find a solution that exists outside me. And I would urge everybody to explore that solution, explore that, right? Reach out for help, you'll get help. And if you believe in a higher power, then you're halfway there. I'm not here to change people's beliefs and unbeliefs, but I
Yeah.
personally think if you believe in a higher power, you're already halfway there.
It's absolutely one's own responsibility, commitment, and being
You must
informed
want help, Girejaji. See, if I
yourself.
want to continue drinking and drugging, there's nobody in the world, no amount of rehabs, no amount of doctors that can stop me. If
Yeah.
I want help, somewhere अंदर से वो पुकार आएगा. I can't stop because my father said or my mother said or my wife said. Honestly, it's tough. The
Yes.
disease is tough. If
Right.
I want to get better,
Yeah.
then my short message is you can and you will. Anybody who wants it will get it.
Amazing.
Anybody who wants to get better and is willing to work on it will get it. Anybody.
Very, very powerfully put. So it is the intention that we need to, you ask it, you will get it.
Work
So
on yourself.
work on yourself. So all of us are work in progress, and we may have, we are, defective in some areas of our life. So it's not necessary that a person who's addicted to a substance has to look at him as a defective substance, something unique by himself.
Don't do
It's
that.
just
Please
one
don't do
difficulty, yes, don't do that. One difficulty, one challenge, but I'm very committed to overcoming that challenge. Like he said, then nobody can stop you from recovering, right?
Yes.
That is what.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And there is some question here. Amit Garg has said, he has put some question here in Hindi. मैं मेरे पक्ष भारत में छिपा कर बॉलीवुड, what is that? Can you read it?
बॉलीवुड थर्डले से ड्रग्स पा रही है
Hmm.
और इसका व्यापार करके हमारे युवाओं में और जैसा नरोड़ी भी बना रहे हैं, फिर इसी ड्रग्स के पैसे से मूवी बनाकर हमारी संस्कृति को बदनाम।
Yes, that you have said a very the truth that is there, but finally it is individual's responsibility. Bollywood does it, yes, we have to boycott those people who are doing
I
it.
will share something on this, okay?
Yes,
And don't. It's just my what I've seen working with so many alcoholics over the last 20 years.
right.
Drugs and alcohol exists in every facet of society, in every corner of the world.
Yes.
ओके वाई ओके बॉलीवुड वो हमारे नजर में आता है तो हम देखते हैं क्योंकि दे आर द रॉन्ग यूथ आइकन्स सो आई
Yeah.
एग्री देयर बट डज इट नॉट हैपन विद पॉलिटिशियंस डज इट नॉट हैपन विद policemen I'll tell you half a dozen doctors who abuse prescription medication and need so there is a category I'll tell you Girija ji there is a rehab center for priests in the country and
Okay.
I'm not even talking in India, right? So it cuts across genders, it cuts across barriers, it cuts across social strata, education level, income level. वो अल्कोहल नहीं चुनता है कि तुम अल्कोहलिक हो या ड्रग्स हो सबको होता है but yes sometimes in movies have a tendency to influence younger minds so we need
Yeah,
to be
because
careful.
all the time you see people, either talking when they are
Humanizing.
confused, they are taking drinks. When they are angry, they are taking drinks. When they are happy, they are taking drinks. So people think that is the cool thing to do. So probably yes, that is one responsibility that media could focus on. And we are also very strongly talking about that responsibility in our nation, especially because we have got a high percentage of youth. So media has to be very careful. So we are trying to impose, trying to exercise our rights as viewers to see that we don't encourage that kind of movies that is happening here.
No, I'll share
So,
something since you are in LA, but I'm sure you also come to India often. See, if you go to a movie hall, no, before the movie, they will show some deadly visuals and video on tobacco and oral cancer and
absolutely.
people dying. वो देखने के बाद I don't think anybody will want to smoke, but yes, and even on the screen, no, whenever there's
Yeah.
an alcohol shot or a cigarette, because I'm in the advertising line, I can talk on this.
Right. They'll say we
Always
are
a
not
disclaimer.
promoting. We are not promoting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they
But
are
yes,
saying
it's
we are not
glamorized.
promoting. Yes. But
They
that is
glamorize it.
in small letters. But what they see is the
The
youth
glamour.
icon is like wearing a great dress and coming in a big car, and then he has got his girls around, and then he's like,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
what else I want in my life? Everything this fellow is getting with the drink. So why not?
See, drugs is not cool. So anything that says drugs is cool and
Alcohol
alcohol
is cool or
it says so
smoking
much.
is cool. Yes, we
It's
need
not
to
correct.
remove that. Yes,
It's not
exactly.
correct. Personally, yeah.
Yes, very true, very true. So, viewers, thank you very much. I can see many of the regular viewers of the channel. I saw the President Neelam Gada and President Praful Yarvankar, both of them from both the clubs being here. And of course, there was Padmaja, there was Padma James, and then we had somebody from Sri Lanka also who had participated. So, a lot of viewers have been there. As at present, we have got 550 viewers on the YouTube, and there are of course viewers from Facebook and other channels who will be watching us. And in further days, we will see people watching it. What we want is that we touch maximum lives. If after watching one show, even if one person gets in touch with his inner being and the divine being, and he is able to get some solution out of it, we have done our part. Because as we need to keep on sowing the seeds, and where it grows is left to the soil and the environment that is around it. So that is what we're doing the right thoughts. I just wanted to tell you the history of how it all started when the famous actor Sushant Singh Rajput passed away. at that point of time, first it came out that he was an addict, and so he committed suicide, etc., etc. But later on, after a lot of research, we all came to know that it was fed to him without his knowledge. And so there is a lot of movement against getting justice for him. So we are all in that part, and we realize that a lot of young people are getting into, say, alcohol or uh, tobacco and even drugs without their knowledge, or sometimes being enticed into it as school, and then they find it very difficult to get out of it. So that is why we want to protect our youth, and at least if awareness can help, it is not like I did not tell you. You get the awareness, and fully knowing that if you get in, then we still are there with you. We are not here being judgmental. There are so many people with experience, so this is going to stay forever. Whatever you have put out to the universe, I'm sure that the universe is listening, and so many young people are listening. Those who seek the right path will probably come here, listen to you, and then get a take a leaf out of your life and get that, muster that confidence and that commitment to get out of that. So that is what I'm looking at this session. I just read a poem about what you said, like, the alcohol takes it and he zones out, and it is the family that goes through that. So I was just reading a poem, and I just wanted to share that. So probably that will touch some of the hearts, and they will start looking for answers because they are zoned out, they are not aware what is happening with their family. So at any point of time, if they happen to watch this and it touches their heart, I would really consider myself fortunate. So I'm just reading out a poem that is written by somebody called Julie, and it is out on the internet. The words that have yet been spoken, the things that I need to say to voice what is within my heart, I just can't find a way. I've fought with my emotions. I've held them deep inside. I didn't want to face what for so long you have tried to hide. I've been lost within the dark. For so long, I have seen no light, holding on to the memory of a time when things were right. I've looked upon your face and seen the sadness in your eyes, the battle of addiction you no longer can disguise. I've prayed to find the answers of what I myself must do, and I prayed for the strength to fight through the hell that I go through. I've held on for so long, but I can no longer watch you die. I cannot fight this for you, but Lord knows I've tried. It's just so hard to watch the ones you love slowly slip away. That's why I just blocked it out and held on to yesterday. I don't have all the answers or the power to save your soul. You're broken, lost, and lonely, and I cannot make you whole. This fight is yours and yours alone, no matter what I do. For I cannot save you. The only one who can is you.
How beautiful.
So,
Thank you
yeah.
for that.
Yeah. So, thank you, viewers, for staying with us. Please share this with all the people whom you know, not necessarily people who are taking alcohol or whom you think are taking alcohol. It can catch up anytime, anybody. So, please share it with people of all age groups so that they are aware that this can be a melody, and people have to work in order to get out of this and see the experience the joy of life. We live life only but once, and experience the joy of life and be with your family and make the best of it. The festival of light is coming. May the light shine on everybody's life. Thank you so much, viewers. Thank you for this. Thank you to Rotary Club of Addiction Prevention and Rotary Club of Mumbai Elite for supporting us on this issue. And thank you, Varun Kapur, million times for giving us this platform. Thank you, Vijayji, and we will meet once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Girija.
Yeah.
Loud shout out to Rotary Club of Addiction Prevention. I think prevention is a great place to be at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.